So for today's video, so excited because I am finally bringing you my cream shadow beginner's guide. I love cream eyeshadow. I pretty much wear it every time I wear my makeup. And since I did my beginner's guide to cream blush, I had been seeing comments coming through asking for this video. I don't know why it took me so long to do it, but here we are. If you have been wanting to dabble into cream shadow and you're just looking for the right techniques, the right formulas, something that's going to work for you, this video is for you. I'm using cream shadow as a kind of umbrella term today for liquid shadows, stick shadows, etc. We have some beautiful hybrid formulas as well, two of which are on my eyes today. Not only am I giving you personal product recommendations that I love, but I'm going to walk you through all of these different formulas so that based on your makeup preferences, hopefully you'll find something that works for you, because I really feel like cream shadow can work for everyone. You just have to find the right formula. And before we jump in, I just want to say that if you enjoy the video, please let me know by giving this video a thumbs up. And if you are subscribed, make sure you hit the notification bell because I have a best and worst affordable cream shadow video coming very soon. Long time in the works. Let's first start off talking about why I love cream shadow. It's really simple. I just prefer the way that it looks on my eyelids. I love the reflection of cream shadows, and I also just feel like there's less of a chance that it's going to look textured or dry on the lids. And with cream textures, there's just more of an opportunity for reflection because they're cream. So let's talk about how to pick the right cream shadow formula for you. I think this is really, really important when talking about cream shadows because I don't know about you, I've tried some that are not great. I look for two main things with cream shadows. I look for one, really beautiful blendability, because with cream shadows, if it's not really blendable, you're not gonna get a good seamless look. But I also don't want something that is too creamy. So I don't want something that's just going to blend away into nothing. I still want that pigment and that pop. I just want the texture to look very creamy and smooth on the eyelids. So let's start off with the classic cream shadows. These are the cream shadows that you think about when you think about cream shadows. They typically come in a pot. They can also come in a stick format. They can be matte, they can be sparkly. And in general, I find that these are kind of like the easiest cream shadows to deal with because they're super intuitive. Let's talk about some potted shadow recommendations. Again, these are very classic shadow formulas. I would recommend these for two reasons. One, they're extremely blendable. They're really easy to work with. For that reason, they're not going to give you a hard time. And in that same vein, there's just not as much building and blending needed with these products. They're just really easy. Not only that, they're just freaking gorgeous. Let's first start off with the first cream shadow that I think of when I think of cream shadows. And I would say probably like my holy grail, my go-to, my favorite everyday shadow. It is Charlotte Tilbury Oyster Pearl. I'm sure this is not a surprise for those of you that watch my channel. This has a more moussey, creamy consistency, and it's just one of those shadows that is so hard to mess up. It looks so beautifully reflective and pretty on the lids. It's nice and smoothing, so it's not going to make the texture on your lids look odd. It also works really beautifully as a one and done shadow. I have a couple of one and done shadow videos. I'll leave them linked down below because personally, I find that if you're just getting into cream shadows, go with one and done shadows. It's going to be a really quick and easy way to get a complete look. When you blend this onto the lid and into the crease, it gives you a very dimensional eye look with one shadow. So you don't need to fuss with a lot of different steps. Everything is simplified. And in general, I just find this shade to be so beautiful. Like, it's going to look good on everyone. It is both a unique and a very classic shade. A formula like this, I find, is best applied with fingers or with a brush. Personally, what I like to do is just stick my finger into the pot, apply it on the lids, and then use just a fluffy brush to bring it into the crease. Again, it's super simple. These moussey textures want to blend in. You're not gonna really fight with them, but in turn, they're not going to last as long as some other cream shadows. And I do have some really long wear favorites as well that I'll share with you. But if you really want that blendable texture, but you want it to just last a little bit longer, I also recommend Tom Ford Platinum. This is very similar to the Eyes to Mesmerize, except this one sets down a little bit more, and also it's not quite as moussey. It's just not as airy. Either way, this is also another favorite and kind of a cult classic. Same thing goes for Tom Ford Platinum. You can just put your finger straight into the pot, apply it on the lids, and then blend it out. And it works, again, beautifully as that just one and done quick shadow look that's going to look good every single time. If you're new to my channel, something that I really don't like is finicky makeup. I really like consistent makeup, and these are going to give you the same look over and over again. The blendability is there, the creaminess is there, and probably most importantly for me at least is just the reflection. Just beautiful, beautiful reflection. But hey, maybe you're more of a stick shadow person. Eyeshadow sticks are also super, super easy to work with. One of my favorites is the Kiko Milano Long Lasting Eyeshadow Stick, and in particular the shade 05 is really, really beautiful. These are very blendable and creamy as well. I prefer a stick shadow that has a little bit more emollients to it. It's really easy to just take this and apply it straight to the lid. You can use your fingers to blend it out. You can use a brush. These kind of classic cream shadow formulas are really versatile. There's not really a wrong way to apply them. A tip I have though with these shadows is that if you want a lot of pop and you want some more pigment out of them, if you just take your finger from the stick right onto the lid, it will give you a little bit more impact. This formula is really, really nice. The only downside to it, and with most stick products, is you don't get much product. Next, let's talk about liquid shadows, because liquid shadows are some of my absolute favorite textures to work with, but they're also, I think, like some of the most polarizing formulas. There are so many liquid shadow formulas out there that I don't like. They look really crackly, they can look drying, and again, I prefer cream shadows for that exact opposite reason. So these can come in a squeeze tube, they can come with a doe foot applicator to apply. I actually get a lot of questions about whether or not to use an eye primer with cream shadows. If you have more oily eyelids, I definitely think an eye primer will help. But I'll tell you what I do. I typically use a matte liquid shadow as a base product for my other shadows. That to me just looks better, and it also adds usually another kind of base color to make everything look more blended. So why pick a liquid shadow? One, again, these are probably going to last a little bit longer than a more classic cream shadow formula. These formulas are also really good for kind of defining the eye. What I like to use them for is to give my eye looks some more structure and also give them a little bit more of that long wear finish. There are definitely more liquid shadows that are on the matte side, and I tend to find that liquid shadows that are matte end up working the best for me. But in exchange, again, the formulas themselves can be kind of hit or miss, and they're also just a little bit less beginner friendly in some ways. They can still be super, super easy. So let's first talk about, I think, like my favorite liquid shadow out there. Really just like an absolute favorite for me. It is the Ulta Beauty Matte Cream Eyeshadows. These are just such a beautiful and affordable option. I would pay way more for this formula. So they are a liquid mousse kind of texture. They come with a doe foot applicator, and I find that this texture works really beautifully because, again, it's more liquidy, but because it has a touch of a moussiness to it, it really glides very evenly and easily on the lids. But it's not lacking in pigmentation. The pigmentation is absolutely there. There are some liquid shadow textures that are just a little bit stiffer, and I feel like this is really the best of both worlds because you get great pigmentation, you get a really long-lasting formula, but it's just so freaking easy to blend. This is my go-to when I put something into my crease to make my entire look last longer. And for me, that's really the trick in getting a beautiful, reflective looking eye look on the lids themselves, but keeping the whole thing from creasing with a shadow like this in the crease. I've talked about that little hack before, but that's really how I get my looks to be both long wearing and also not lose that beautiful reflection from a shadow like Oyster Pearl, for example. example. So how you apply these is really going to depend on the look that you're going for. For more control and for more definition, I recommend using a brush, just like you would with a powder shadow, and adding this into those areas where you really want to kind of define the eyes. I love to take shadow out here on the outer corner and just slowly build them up from there. I have to be honest, most of my eye looks are not super structured, but this is really nice just for a little bit more definition, just something to help your look be a little bit more dimensional. I'll also share with you all my favorite makeup brushes later in this video, and the Ulta matte shadows give you enough time to blend as well, which is so important. It's not going to dry down and then look choppy when other areas haven't been blended yet. So important. Another favorite of mine are the Danessa Myricks color fixes. This is definitely a product that I think is one of the most well-rounded products that we're talking about today, because there are so many different colors, so many different finishes. This is kind of like a long wear cream paint color. It comes in a squeezy tube. This is the shade Celebration. It's definitely the shade that I'm reaching for the most, and it's one of their metallic shades. This is going to last you all day. It's a very budge-proof formula that doesn't look flat, but the trade-off here is that these are just going to take a little bit longer for some people to get accustomed to. At least it did for me. These are more of a thick kind of paint-like texture. So I personally find that a finger really helps to apply a texture like this. Kind of warms it up a little bit, but you are gonna need a brush, I think, to get a really seamless look. But if you're looking for a range with a bunch of different matte colors to choose from for an eye base, for a color to put into the crease, one that you want to kind of structure out your looks and give you more definition, or some really beautiful like glittery shades, metallic shades, this line really has it all. And that's why I always go back and recommend it. And I also feel like because these are so long wearing, it's going to really work for a wide variety of people. And one last option that I don't think I've talked about a lot on my channel before, it's the Covergirl Exhibitionist lid paints. And I feel like this is just such a beautiful base product for lids as well. Just like I would do with the Ulta Matte Cream Shadow, this will help any look last a lot longer. And this formula, funny enough, I feel like it's a combination between the Colorfix formula and the Ulta Matte Cream Shadow formula. It's still really nice and blendable, but it's not quite as thin or moussey as the Ulta Matte Cream Shadow. And lastly, for some different formulas, I want to talk about some hybrid textures. Hybrid textures are really great for those of you that kind of want the best of both worlds, obviously. And when I think about hybrid textures done right, I always think of Rituelle de Fille. I'm wearing two shadows from Rituelle de Fille on my lids today. I'm using the Ash and Ember Eye Soot in the shade Incantation, and on the middle of my lids, I'm wearing the Celestial Sphere Eye Soot in Andromeda. I first want to talk about the Ash and Ember Eye Soot formula because this is a formula that I've used for a very long time, and it's one that I'm such a fan of. I really enjoy this formula because it's kind of a hybrid between a powder and a cream. It's essentially a pigment mixed with an oil. So it has a kind of sooty, powdery quality to it, but when you apply it onto the lids, it kind of warms up and it really like creams up. I don't know if that's the right way to describe it, but it kind of melts down into the skin and looks ultra creamy. So a formula like this I think is really good for someone that is just getting into cream shadows because it's kind of like that middle ground. That being said, this is definitely something that you would want to apply like you would a powder shadow. They work best with brushes. In particular, a more dense brush is definitely the way to go with this. I'll talk about brushes in a second. They just have some really incredible, unique formulas. I love how kind of sultry they look as well. The quality of your skin is also still going to look good. It's not going to look powdery or flat. And I just love how it melts into the eyelids and just gives you a really beautiful kind of undone look. So pick this if you want kind of a hybrid formula and you want to apply it the typical way that you would with a powder shadow. Getting into a new formula to me, which is the Celestial Sphere. These are a little bit closer to a classic cream shadow formula, but I almost feel like it's a mix between like a cream shadow, an eye gloss, and like a glitter all mixed into one. Just a little bit of this will turn any eye look into something that's really, really reflective. They have different colored glitters to add that beautiful dimension. These don't have a lot of base pigment though. They have a touch of a base pigment, which I think ends up making these work better with other products. But these just add that really, really gorgeous reflection. I recently put up a reel on my Instagram, and a lot of you guys were asking what I put on my eyes, and the product that really gave it that shine was this. I'm a really big fan of Rituelle de Fille. I think the formulas are really unique and the colors are beautiful as well. And one more formula that is more of a hybrid formula for me at least is the Illusion d'Ombre from Chanel, specifically in the shade New Moon. So I guess you could kind of classify this as like a sparkly top coat product, but this actually has quite a bit of a base pigment to it, and it's actually very, very smooth and creamy. So I kind of almost consider this a cream shadow. It's not gritty at all. It's just really like ultra smooth. The pigments can kind of be blended out to this gorgeous like taupey pink, but there's a little bit of purple to it. Like the dimension and the complexity to this color, it's just so beautiful. The shimmer isn't unflattering. It doesn't look chunky, and it just gives you that incredible glossy look as well. You can certainly build it up to get a little bit more impact, or you could sheer it out as well. Personally, with a shadow like this, because it is more sparkly, I would just apply it with my fingers. Just pick it up on my finger, swipe it on the lid, and then use a more dense brush to kind of pat it down and blend the edges. I love applying more sparkly shadows that way. I find that that gives you a really seamless look, but it also retains the impact of the shadow and the sparkle. One kind of color choosing tip I would have as well with any cream shadows is that you should really go with the colors that you know you're going to use, especially if you're just getting into cream shadows. Go with those classic colors that you know you like on you. So it's all about what you feel the most confident in. You can tell I really like these kind of taupey colors for me. And lastly, let's talk about some shadow brushes. I have 4 different ones that I usually rotate through. A good rule of thumb that I like to keep in mind with, choosing a brush for cream shadow is the denser the formula, the denser the brush. If you're dealing with a really, really creamy formula, you're not going to need a really dense brush. You can probably go with something a little bit fluffier, but in general, I find that I do prefer a brush with a little bit more density. I don't like a brush that's super, super fluffy. Personally, I think that fingers are your best friend if you can use fingers to apply your shadows. That's definitely like my favorite way to apply them. For a similar reason, I really, really enjoy the Rare Beauty liquid shadow brush. And I love this one because it was meant to emulate a fingertip kind of application. You can see it has a slant. It's very dense at the bottom, but it's super soft. You can see how it's straight on the top and then it has this, plush fluffiness at the end. It just works perfectly for that kind of swipe on the lid technique. But you can also turn it on its side and get a little bit more of a straight edge if you want to clean up the area. I really, really love this brush. Kind of a go-to that I've used for a long time now is the Pro 18 Shadow Brush from Sephora. I also adore this one. This to me is like a fluffier version of a pencil brush, and I love it because you can really get in the inner corner of the lid and get a really smooth, even application there. I actually don't like to take my eyeshadow too close in here because I find that it kind of closes off my eyes. And because I already have dark circles, I just feel like it can make everything look a little bit darker. So with this, I have more control over exactly where I want to place this. And because it's more of a dense brush, you're not going to lose a lot of pigmentation. It's really going to hold the pigmentation well, perfect for the lash line. And I just love it because you can kind of just like clean up the outer areas of the lid and get more of a soft look, but it's really good for kind of winging out cream shadow looks, which is usually how I like to apply cream shadow. So yeah, this is a very, very worthy investment. I also love this airbrush crease brush from It Cosmetics. It was inside of a set. I'm not positive if the airbrush crease brush that they sell separately is the same one, but this is excellent if you deal with more thick formulas. This is very dense but super soft, so it's going to be able to diffuse everything super easily and seamlessly. I love It Cosmetics brushes. I think they do some fantastic brushes. And lastly, for more of an affordable option, I also recommend Real Techniques as well, but I love the AOA Studio E128 brush. This is also within a set, but the whole set is $10, so it's more affordable. But this is also really nice for the crease because it's not too fluffy. With some super fluffy crease brushes, with a cream shadow, I just feel like it can get a little bit messy. So this one's nice because it's fluffy at the top, but there's just a little bit more density, so you have some more control. If you guys enjoyed the video, please make sure to give this video a thumbs up and make sure you are subscribed because that drugstore affordable shadow video is coming very soon. As always, thank you for watching, and I will see you in my next one.